What is going on, guys? Happy Sunday. Week 3 is upon us. We're going to talk about it. Eagles, Saints, my favorite bets, my favorite games. We're going to break down the Broncos and the Bucks, which is starting 1 hour, 5 minutes from now, and some more games that I think are going to be a lot of fun. The Lions got a really interesting game against the Cardinals, the 49ers. I, I really excited to break down these games. So thank you guys for joining, and let's hit the intro.
There's only 4 words. This one's for John. This one's for Pat.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to NFL with Kyle. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the games that I'm really excited about. Of course, I did predictions on the Only Football podcast yesterday. I am still recovering from my jaw surgery, so talking might be a little difficult. Don't have that full range of motion yet. But it's not going to stop me from going over these week 3 games, which I'm super pumped up about. Week 3 is upon us, and there's a lot of games that are really important, including the games for the teams that are 0-3 that are looking to get their first win of the season. And we know statistically that if you are 0-3, you have less than a 5% chance of making the postseason. History does not favor teams well going 0-3. Well, you might be saying, well, damn, what about the Ravens? I mean, they were an AFC championship caliber team last year, one game away from the Super Bowl. What about the Bengals with Joe Burrow, who's gone to the Super Bowl 2 of the 3 years that he was actually healthy? Are those teams part of that 1% that are going to miss the playoffs should they go 0-3 today? I don't know. All right. It's not 0%. There is a chance. But of course, there are other teams like the Broncos that are trying not to be 0-3, but are 0-2 at the current moment. And when you're 0-2, you get a little bit desperate. And when you play football desperate, it can either be a good or a bad thing. We've seen it benefit teams that get a little bit desperate, and somehow they're able to string together a pretty good performance. And we've seen teams get desperate and force footballs into traffic and throw interceptions and muff punts and fumble the football. And clearly, they're out there playing with an absurd amount of pressure instead of playing loose backyard football and having fun. Are those teams going to be able to respond to the pressure of not going 0-3 without, I guess, looking like they're under pressure? So the Chargers are playing the Steelers, the Houston Texans going against the Vikings, the Eagles and the Saints, Broncos, Tampa, Packers in Tennessee, Giants playing Cleveland, Bears playing Colts. Those are our noon o'clock games. And looking at this first slate, I love it. I love the Houston Texans going to Minnesota. Minnesota coming off an impressive win against the 49ers. I actually called that upset. And now Minnesota is another underdog. You would think maybe after beating the 49ers that they would get a little more street cred, but they're still 3-point underdogs at home. And it's because they're playing the Houston Texans, who were basically everything they were advertised to be up to this point. But they still look beatable. Of course, Joe Mixon is out, so it's going to be Cam Akers that is going to be taking the load of the carries. And the Vikings defensively are one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators. They're going to find a way to scheme blitzes that look unique. You might think the backers are blitzing and they back into coverage and vice versa. And we know that's what Brian Flores does. He disguises his defense very well, which we would say it would be a problem with a rookie quarterback. But CJ Stroud's not a rookie. Yeah, but it's his first year, a second year if you count his rookie year. So, I mean, we're still talking about a guy that has played less than or 18 football games in his career. It's not like CJ Stroud is a savvy vet yet, although his rookie season was so impressive. We tend to forget that he was a rookie. I think Brian Flores is going to remind us that CJ Stroud doesn't walk on water and that he's still a young quarterback that is still going to face defenses time and time again where he learns that he doesn't have the NFL all figured out. Now, Minnesota defensively, if they could hold Houston to, say, like 24 points, would they be good enough offensively? Justin Jefferson was pulled out of the game last week, but we're hearing now that he's a full go. There's going to be no Jordan Addison, but there was a new rapport with their wide receiver 3 who is going to be elevated to wide receiver 2. I can't remember his name at the moment. But Sam Darnold on that 98-yard touchdown or 95-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson, I mean, that is going to be one of the throws of the year. I put in my bet, I think in February or no, it was later than that. Maybe it was like June or July when Sam Darnold was traded to the Vikings, that Sam Darnold would win comeback player of the year because he's in the best situation that he has been in his career. I don't think it's a coincidence that the 2 quarterbacks that failed in Carolina are now playing very well with their new teams, right? Baker Mayfield is doing great in Tampa. He got the $100 million deal, and Sam Darnold's looking really good too. This is why there's a little bit of luck involved of where you're drafted, the type of talent you have on that team, the type of atmosphere, the culture, and the coaching. These things all matter, and that's why Bryce Young didn't work either. I didn't think he was going to work out, but it doesn't matter how many quarterbacks you draft. If there's a culture issue in the building, it's just going to be, hey, it's like when you keep dating new people, it's like you might be the problem. It might not be all the quarterbacks. It might be that you guys don't know how to develop quarterbacks. Do you think Green Bay just keeps getting lucky? Or do you think they know how to develop quarterbacks extremely well? And teams would be wise to take a page out of their playbook when it comes to this. Sam Darnold's playing really good football right now. He was a number 2 overall pick in the draft. So this is somebody that at some point had the expectations of being a franchise quarterback, and now he's in the best position he's ever been in to show that he could do that. And who knows if JJ McCarthy didn't get injured, if he would even have this opportunity. This is an opportunity that Sam Darnold is probably extremely grateful for, and one that he doesn't want to take for granted. And I think this is the kind of win, of course, last week over the 49ers, but if he can get this win, because early in the season, it's easy for teams to say, oh, that was a fluke. Offense is down, least amount of yards per game since 1996. Nobody's got their offense figured out yet. Talk to me when you beat San Francisco in November. You got to beat them while they're trying to figure it out, or whatever excuse they make to say, the beginning of the year is weird. New Orleans is top 10 defensively in yards allowed per game, and they're number 1 in yards. So are the Saints the best team in the NFL? Now, I'm not ready to say that. So, yeah, the beginning of the season is like take everything with a grain of salt. But I think if Sam Darnold is able to get this win against CJ Stroud and the Texans, that people are going to have no choice but to start considering the fact that Sam Darnold might be a very good quarterback for the Vikings this year and even secure a long-term contract like we saw Baker Mayfield. What's interesting with Baker Mayfield is when he was acquired, the thinking was he's just the guy they're going to go with for a year and then they're going to draft their quarterback next year. nobody thought Baker Mayfield was going to heat up in November. First quarterback ever to have a perfect QBR at Lambeau Field in December. And that was the perfect time for him to heat up, because then he went into the playoffs. He beat the Philadelphia Eagles. He went into Detroit, and you could make a case that he played as good as Jared Goff did in that game. Both quarterbacks were extremely, extremely efficient. And that was why at the end of that game, you're like, I know that Tampa's got to be really bummed out that they didn't get this win, but they have a ton to be happy about moving forward. And it wasn't only a couple months later that the Buccaneers signed Baker Mayfield to a $100 million deal. But here's the kicker. The Bucs didn't have a young quarterback on the bench. The Vikings do. And they drafted J.J. McCarthy with the expectation that he would eventually start. What if Sam Darnold takes this team to double-digit wins and wins a playoff game? What do the Vikings then do with J.J. McCarthy? And what do they do with Sam Darnold? I think it's a problem that Viking fans want to have, and we'll see. But it starts with games like this one. If Sam Darnold can get off to a really hot start against this Texans team. C.J. Stroud also has a pretty bad record against the NFC. And I saw something yesterday, too, that said Lamar Jackson has I think it was like a 28-1 record against NFC opponents. I find that just mind-boggling. 28-1 against NFC opponents. Crazy. So the Vikings are 2-0 for the first time since 2016. So it has been a while since they've had success early in the season. But this would be the kind of game that shifts the way the public views Sam Darnold. It's a huge game for him, and it's a huge opportunity, and it is a noon game, so really excited about that. The game that I'm not excited about, a game that I think looks a little bland. We got Bill in the chat. What's up, Bill? Is the Giants and the Browns. Now, there is a storyline to watch here for the Giants. The Giants are trying to avoid starting 0-3 for the fifth time in the past 12 years. That's what we call the bad kind of history. New York finished 7-9 in 2013, 3-13 in 2017, and 6-10 in 2020, and 4-13 in 2021. So look at that. I mean, all those seasons that the Giants started 0-3, one of the seasons they were able to go 7-9 in 2013, the year the Broncos went to the Super Bowl. I had to throw that in there. But all the other years, you got 4 wins, 3 wins, 6 wins. And this just kind of shows you, if you go 0-3, most likely your season is going to end like this. It is a huge statistical. It's a huge difference between being 0-3 and 1-2. So this is really important for the players of the Giants right now. Players are unhappy with the losing going on right now. Defensive lineman and captain Dexter Lawrence, he said, personally, I'm pissed because I hate losing with a passion. And the Giants, the message is simple: win. Now for the Browns, the storyline to watch is that the offense showed signs of improvement in week 2 with their win over the Jaguars, when the Jaguars called it Trevor Bank. The Browns came in and just destroyed them. So can the unit break out against a struggling Giants defense on Sunday too? Can Deshaun Watson take that next step? Because so far this looks like the worst deal in NFL history, next to the Russell Wilson contract. New York's given up a league worst 20 explosive plays, while the Browns have produced 9 explosive plays through 2 games, tied for 22nd in the league. So yeah, I mean, for the Giants defense, they're going to need to play better. This game is in Cleveland, so they're going to have the home field advantage. Stats to know: Deshaun Watson's gone 14 straight games without throwing for 300 plus passing yards. It's the longest streak of his career, and he has not thrown for 300 yards since joining the Browns in 2022. and the second longest active streak in the NFL behind only Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, Deshaun Watson trying to get that monkey off his back, I'm sure. The bold prediction for this game: Giants wide receiver Darius Slayton will catch a 30-plus yard pass. Slayton has run vertical routes on 56% of the time, second among qualified wide receivers this season. And the Browns have run the least amount of too high coverage of any team. So if you are on FanDuel, I would say bet the over on Darius Slayton wide receiving yards. He could just get, it could be a 2-3 catch game, but if he gets 140-yard pass, you get your money. The fantasy X factor for you fantasy players: Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson is firmly cemented right now as the number 2 wide receiver for the Giants. Malik Neighbors had 18 targets against the Commanders, most for a rookie since Puka Nakua's 20 targets in week 2 last year. However, Neighbors faces a tough matchup in week 3 against Denzel Ward. This could lead Daniel Jones to focus on Robinson, who excels in space and is great at yak yards, getting yards after the catch. This is the case all the time with number 1 wide receivers going against top cornerbacks in the league. It's an opportunity for that number 2 corner to get, double, in some cases, double the amount of targets. So the Browns are 6-1 against the spread in their past 7 home games. Now, here are the picks from ESPN. Giants 21, Browns 17. Browns 20, Giants 13. Browns 19, Giants 16. And the simulator has Cleveland winning by an average of 6 points. 64.7% of the simulations say that Cleveland wins this game. And Bill said, "Oh, our receiver's nice." Bill, you're our top donor, man. I gotta know your team. It is my job. But yeah, this is just such a game that you just don't want to bet on, in my opinion. Cleveland 6.5 point favorites. Like, if I had to bet, I would take the Giants with the points. I think 6.5 is a lot for a team desperately trying not to go 0-3. If I would stay away from this game, I wouldn't go near it with the 10-foot pole. Matter of fact, there's quite a bit of games I feel that way about. The Packers and the Titans is another one. So, even if by the way, it's my aunt's birthday, so I woke up early and brought her flowers and coffee. And I stopped at Kroger, and there were Packer fans everywhere. Okay, there was only one. But I was excited because I was like, oh, he's going to the game. So even if Jordan Love returns from his knee injury, these tickets, we were going to get tickets to the game because my family's all Packer fans. They were like $350 a pop. All right, so let's talk about the game. Jordan Love gets hurt week 1. Luckily, he's able to avoid a season-ending situation. Now, even if he returns from his knee injury, I would expect Josh Jacobs to be a huge part of the offensive plan again, just like last year. He topped 100 yards from scrimmage in each of the first 2 games. With another one, he'd be the first Packer running back to have 100-plus yards from scrimmage in the first 3 games of the season since Amon Green did it in 2004. Amon Green was an awesome player. I remember growing up watching Amon Green. His legs were like tree trunks. He was such a good running back for the Packers. The Packers believe they have a high-volume back in Jacobs. It's always a good luxury, especially if they can handle it. That's what Ben Searman said, the running back coach for the Packers. He's proven that he's that type of guy, and that's why they let Aaron Jones go, and that's why they paid him to be a 3-down back and to handle all of the carries. I believe he's getting really close to a record he doesn't want to break. Most receptions without a receiving touchdown. He might have actually broken it because I don't believe he's gotten one yet, and he was really close when the season started. For the Titans, the storyline to watch is that the turnovers continue to be an issue for the Titans, even with their new defensive coordinator, Bernard Wilson, and his emphasis on not turning the ball over. The Titans' defense has not gotten a takeaway in the first two games. Uh, Bad combo. And I will say, while we're talking about it, the Packers have gotten 3 takeaways in their first 2 games of the season. Nobody averages more takeaways per game right now than Green Bay. On the opposite side, like I said, the Titans haven't gotten any takeaways. Tennessee's -4 turnover differentials, dead last in the league, while the Packers are on top with a +4 differential. This is what I was just saying. The Titans defense spent a lot of time on ball disruption drills in practice this week. The thing with takeaways, it's about your technique. It's about population to the ball and being violent at the point of contact. This is what the defensive coordinator said. If you want to be a good defense in the league, you've got to take the ball away. Okay. And that is Wilson, the defense coordinator, quoting Turon Davenport. So, I mean, this game is really hard to predict, too, because Tennessee's 2-point favorites at home. You got a 37.5-point spread, so predicting it to be a low-scoring game. Let me know in the chat who you have winning this game, because I find it really difficult. I want to go with the Packers just because Matt LaFleur in that defense is playing really good right now, but I also don't have a ton of faith. I know Malik Willis. It's not even that he had a great game. It was just Matt LaFleur did such a good job of catering the game plan to what Malik Willis does well, which included him having over 50 rushing yards. I just don't know if they're going to be able to have that same success with a whole week of film. I think Malik Willis comes back down to earth, and I still don't know if Jordan Love's playing. Let me check really quick. Jordan Love, inactive for week 3. So 43 minutes ago, officially ruled inactive. So yeah, it's going to be Malik Willis, and that's kind of why I don't know what to do with this game. Let me know in the chat who you got. The X factor for this game, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard for the second week in a row has been the X factor for the Titans. He's going against a Packers defense that gave up 33.2 fantasy points to Saquon and 15.5 to Jonathan Taylor in week 2. Pollard has had 19 plus touches in back-to-back games, and meanwhile, Will Levis has made 2 game-clinching mistakes in consecutive weeks. Pollard has serious top 10 potential in week 3. And for the week 3 running back rankings in fantasy football, we got you covered. Okay. For the running backs, since that's what we're talking about right now, number 1 running back in fantasy. Where did it go? Hold on. I had my list. Okay, here it is. Bijan Robinson, number 1, going against the Chiefs. Alvin Kamara, number 2. Jordan Mason. Isn't that crazy? All the way up to number 3. What a steal for everybody that got him off waivers. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley at 5, Devon Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs at 8, James Cook, Kyron Williams, James Conner, Zach Charbonnet, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Aaron Jones, Rachaad White, and Tony Pollard. Those are your top 17. J.K. Dobbins at 18, and Brian Robinson Jr. at 19, Zach Moss at 20. So I have DeAndre Swift for Chicago. He's ranked 21, which is like good enough to flex. But I just don't know if I should. David Montgomery at 23. I have him as RB2. I'm just hoping that one of these running backs kind of breaks out for me. But man, Jordan Mason has been a real shocker. All right, so back to the game, or back to the top storylines to watch. We talked about DeAndre Swift. Let's talk about the Bears and the Colts. So Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix have a combined 0 touchdown passes in the season through 2 weeks of football, through 6 games collective. There has been 0. Passing is down the most it's ever been since 1996. And one of the things that you need if you have a young rookie quarterback is a running game. And that's something that the Bears and the Broncos and the Commanders have in common, is that they're not running the football particularly well. And now the Bears have a prime opportunity to ignite their non-existent run game against the Colts, because they've allowed a league's most 237 yards per game through 2 weeks. Outside of Caleb Williams' 44 rushing yards, and those were mostly gained on scrambles against the Texans on Sunday. All the other Bears averaged 1.6 yards per carry. 1.6 yards per carry. Guys, that is awful. The emphasis on establishing the run is paramount for Chicago's offense, so that you can actually set up play action, so you can actually bootleg. The bootleg only works if there's a legitimate running threat. If not, you're not going to make those defensive ends crash. They're not going to respect the fact that you may be handing the ball off if you're averaging 1.6 yards per carry. That makes football very difficult for a quarterback, let alone a rookie quarterback. Chicago is in the best situation that they've been in to establish a run game, to actually open up the passing game for Caleb Williams. They need to do their part offensively so that Caleb Williams can have a shot. They need those opportunities to ignite this rhythm that has been missing in week 1 and week 2. Now, for the Colts, storyline to watch, there's been a lot of scouts that have come on the radio and have talked about Anthony Richardson. Not only that he has been aggressive through 2 games, but he's also missing like high school quarterback throws. Okay. Like for the Bears, they believe they have a franchise quarterback. For the Colts, they are still trying to figure it out, it seems like. Now, I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to be the franchise quarterback. He's going to have to get better. But if you ask any Bear fan, they think they got their guy. Okay. Anthony Richardson had higher odds to win MVP than Matthew Stafford, and I never understood it. I was like, why is everyone predicting him to be so damn good? I'm not mad about it. I'm head scratching. I'm like, what did I miss? Right? He played a couple games last year. He looked good, but higher odds than Matthew Stafford, a Super Bowl MVP. Like, what are we talking about? It doesn't make any sense. He's got a 49.1 completion rate. That's last among starters. But he has a league high 13.7 air yards per attempt. So this could be a favorable matchup for Richardson, considering that Chicago's defense has allowed a league high 12 explosive pass completions in 2 weeks. So yeah, what a really difficult game to kind of gauge here. Some stats to know: Jonathan Taylor's 41 career rushing touchdowns is only 1 shy of matching Marshall Faulk for 4th on the franchise career list. So the anytime touchdown, that's easy money. Bold prediction for this game: Bears cornerback Jalen Johnson will record an interception. Johnson has picked up where he left off with just 0.3 yards per coverage snap allowed. Per Next Gen Stats, Richardson has a minus 10% completion percentage over expectation. Fantasy X factors for all you fantasy lovers out there: DeAndre Swift. Oh, please be true. I really need DeAndre Swift to go off. I'm flexing him this week. I'm taking a shot, I'm taking a risk. I'm giving him a chance to prove me right for drafting him. It's been a tough start for him to start the season. Under 10 fantasy points in each of his first 2 games. The O-line has struggled to protect him. A strong running game like I said earlier, will take some of the pressure off the quarterback. This is the perfect chance for him to get going. Colts defense has been the most vulnerable of any team on the ground, giving up 159 rushing yards to Joe Mixon and 155 to Jacobs last week. So if the Bears can get that running game going, I think they can win this game on the road. Here's some of the predictions here. Colts 21, Bears 14. Colts 24, Bears 17. Bears 24, Colts 20. And the simulator has the Bears losing. I'll say it this way. The Colts win in the simulation 52.7% of the time by an average of 1.1 points. So simulation has this game, Nat's ass. And the spread, it reflects that. Indianapolis is a 1.5 point favorite. So this is a tough game from a betting standpoint. You're better off just taking the money line for whoever you believe is going to win. Or if you think it's going to be a 1-point game, then take the Colts or take the Bears +1. If the Bears are +1.5 and the final score is 23-24 and the Colts win, you won because you didn't lose by more than 1.5. And I'm sorry I have to dumb it down like that for the people that I want people that don't understand how this works to get a grasp on it. But that's how it works. So, do what you will with that information. But hopefully DeAndre Swift gets back. Bill said, it's my Packers fan birthday. I hope they win for him. Got him an Xavier McKinney jersey as a present. And what a fitting present that is coming from a Giants fan. That was really nice of you, Bill. Good friends. Okay. Texans at Vikings. Talked about this game a little bit with the blitzing and Daniel Hunter and Sam Darnold. If you missed that, rewind it. I talked for maybe 10 minutes about this game. But the stats to know is that Sam Darnold has never thrown 2 passing touchdowns in each of the first 2 games of the season. He has never had multiple touchdown passes in 3 consecutive games in his career. We talked about this game being a I am here type game for him. And it doesn't just feel that way emotionally. Statistically, he's in uncharted territory relative to the success that he's having. Bold prediction, Will Anderson Jr. will have a multi-sack game. He's off to a torrid start in pass rush win rate, 31, 7th best, 31% of the time he wins. And he's had a 48% chance to get at least 1 sack, 9th highest this week, according to the sack model provided here. Even for all of his success, Darnold still is taking sacks at a 7% clip, which is around the average. I saw a stat sheet. It was like a metric, and it was avoidable sacks. So I guess there's good sacks and there's bad sacks. So there's sacks that the quarterback kind of put on himself, and then there's sacks that the O-line has, just kind of effed you, and you had no shot. Sam Darnold, if I remember the chart correctly, was taking a lot of self-inflicted sacks. So I think Will Anderson Jr. having a multi-sack game is a pretty spot-on prediction here. And the fantasy X factor, I mentioned this last night. Stefon Diggs is returning to Minnesota after the Vikings traded him following the 2019 season. He's faced the Vikings when he played for the Bills, and in that game, he had 12 catches for 128 yards. This year, he only has 70 receiving yards, but Diggs ranks second on the Texans with 12 targets. So I'm buying into the revenge game narrative. I expect CJ Stroud to target him more, knowing that this is his homecoming. If you got Stefon Diggs on your bench, maybe upgrade him to that flex position if you have a stacked roster. I think Stefon Diggs is due for a touchdown, and I think he leads the Texans in targets today. Vikings, I think, win this game. They're 3-point underdogs at home. The model has Houston winning 54.2% of the time. And honestly, the lines get inflated very quickly. Like the Saints being a home favorite against the Eagles. The Eagles are an underdog against the Saints. The Eagles, a team that was a Super Bowl team on a lot of people's radar. Like, yeah, the Eagles can go to the Super Bowl. Vic Fangio, all of the defensive pieces they added, and Cooper DeJean, and the other one I'm blanking on his name right now, Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. They added all these pieces. They had a great draft. It was like, yeah, the Eagles are going to be really good. They beat the Packers week 1, and then they lose week 2 because Saquon Barkley drops the ball. Let's face it. Saquon Barkley always catches that ball. He catches that pass, walks into the end zone. The game's over, and the Eagles are 2-0. But he didn't. He dropped the ball. The Eagles are 1-1, and now the Saints are the favorite. I think that might be the biggest overreaction of week 3 is the Saints being favorites over the Eagles. I'm not saying they can't win, but I think it is a little crazy that the Saints have already put themselves in this position where they're 3-point favorites against the Eagles. I'm not buying into it. I think the Saints are playing very good football right now. I just don't know if I'm ready to say they should be 3-point favorites. If anything, it should be a 1.5-point situation. But they're getting a whole 3. I find that a little shocking. I do. Okay, let's talk about that Eagles Saints game. Okay, because we were, alluding to it just now. The Eagles defense is among the worst in the league through 2 games in a number of statistical categories. They rank last in yards allowed per rush, 6.4, 30th in pressure percentage, which has been an issue the last 2 seasons. And that was what they were so good at when they went to the Super Bowl. And we were just kind of thinking Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith were going to take that second-year jump. But so far, 24% of the snaps that are providing pressure, that's 30th. And they're 31st in yards per play allowed at 6.9. So now they take on a Saints team that has scored 91 points through 2 games, including 44 against a pretty respectable Cowboys defense in week 2. And if Vic Fangio's group doesn't find a way to stabilize, things could get ugly against this offense. But I don't think it's going to. I just don't. I don't see a scenario where the Saints blow the Eagles out. I just don't see it. I think too much of Jalen Hurts. I really do. I don't see him going out here and getting. I mean, I'm so excited that this game's in 27 minutes. Like, this game could easily be a Monday Night Football game, and we're gonna get blessed to watch this game in 27 minutes. For the Saints, they struggled with opposing mobile quarterbacks last year, allowing 5.4 yards per carry, which ranked last in the league. Jalen Hurts is tied for 24th among all rushers this year, rushing for 4.5 yards a carry. So this will be the first big test for the Saints, seeing whether it can contain Hurts on the edge or whether he's going to be able to get outside and to be able to turn the corner on this defense. He had 140 yards rushing in each game against the Saints when he played them in 2020 and 2021. So Jalen Hurts historically has been able to beat the Saints with his legs. I gotta write these down. So far we're gonna parlay this. We got the Saints. I need a pen in here. We got here we go. Okay, so we got DeAndre Swift. I'm taking the over on his rushing yards. We got Jalen Hurts. I'm going over on rushing yards. And then we had a wide receiver that we covered. Who was the wide receiver that we? Oh, Stephon Diggs. Diggs going over on his receiving yards. We talked about DeAndre Swift. Tony Pollard. Pollard, we're going over on rushing yards. And there was one more. Wan'Dale Robinson. He has firmly cemented himself as the wide receiver 2 for the Giants. Malik Neighbors is going to be locked up all day against Denzel Ward, and it's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. So that's going to be my parlay. Over for DeAndre Swift rushing yards, over for Jalen Hurts, over for Diggs, over for Tony Pollard rushing, and Wan'Dale Robinson over for receiving. Let's continue. Okay. Continuing on to this game. We talked about the Saints struggling to contain the quarterback. We talked about the Eagles defense looking like dog shit. Here's the bold prediction. Derek Carr will attempt at least 33 passes, 10 more than the most he has attempted in a game this season. Although the Saints have a heavy run approach because it wants to, and it's been winning, taking advantage of its passing efficiency against an Eagles team that struggles pressuring the quarterback will be an opportunity I'd want to take advantage of. Plus, I expect this to be a pretty close game, and I don't know how you feel about that one, but 33 passes, it's totally doable. It's not crazy. It's not like they said 40, so I can get down with that. X Factor, fantasy-wise, Dallas Goedert, wide receiver A.J. Brown's hamstring opens the door for more targets for Devontae Smith, but don't sleep on Goddard. He had only 4 targets and 6.8 fantasy points in week 2, but he's been playing a lot of snaps, and he ran as many routes as Devontae Smith. The Saints gave up 6 catches and 10.3 fantasy points to the Cowboys tight end, Luke Schoonmaker, last week. So Goddard could do better, especially in a matchup with one of the highest point totals on the slate. So Dallas Goedert is, I'm in a weird situation where I have Sam Laporta, but he just hasn't popped. This is a week where I'm wondering, do I dare put Dallas Goedert in? I don't think I could get away with it, but it might be worth a flex. I'll have to keep thinking about it. Through 11:37, so we got about 20 more minutes till kickoff. Let's talk about the Chargers and the Steelers. The Chargers have the NFL's leading rusher in J.K. Dobbins, who has 266 rushing yards and is averaging 10 yards per carry. 10 yards per carry. That is 9.9, but still, like, that is absolutely incredible. And you wonder why Jim Harbaugh passed on Malik Neighbors and drafted Joe Alt, right? And now it's like, oh, maybe he knew what he was doing. Well, they're running the football really well. However, the Steelers have been one of the NFL's best teams against the run, allowing only 153 yards through 2 games, the 4th best in the league. Now, it's time to find out what we're made of. That's what Jim Harbaugh said in the press conference. Let's find out what we're made of, because now we have a real test, and this is what Jim Harbaugh loves. Like you say, his players want to run through a wall for him. It's like, okay, we got 10 yards per carry. Nobody's got more rushing yards than us. We are bullying them in the run game, and now here come the Steelers with the 4th best rushing defense, and Jim Harbaugh not backing away from it. He's leaning into it, excited. We're going to find out what we're made of, right? We're going to find out what we're made of. We're going to separate the men from the boys in this one, and this is going to be a tough, physical game with the Chargers' new identity. I'm super excited about this game. This is going to be a 1:00 game because it is in Pittsburgh. For the Steelers, the storyline is going to be Russell Wilson is still sidelined with his lingering calf injury, but the Steelers are undefeated with Justin Fields, and they're rolling with him for the third straight week. And he'll be protected by rookie first-round pick Troy Fautanu, making his second career start after unseating the 2023 first-round pick Broderick Jones at right tackle. Fatuma and left tackle Dan Moore Jr. will have their hands full against one of the best tandems in the league, pass rushing wise, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, plus a Chargers defense that has allowed a league's best 6.5 points per game in the first 2 weeks. I can see this being a real low scoring game. The over under points is at 35.5. That is very low for an NFL game. 35.5. I believe that would be the lowest point total this year so far, and you could obviously see why. And Bill said, "Oh God, is that your flight helmet in the background?" That is my flight helmet in the background. Here we go. This was my this is my squadron. See if I can get it to focus on it. Oh, let's see if I get real close. Okay, it can't, but this is my golden swordsman. I was at VP 47, and this is my last name down here, Kitzman, at the bottom. But yeah, thanks for noticing. So for the stats to know about the game, Justin Herbert has thrown under 200 passing yards in 3 consecutive games dating back to last season. This is the longest streak of his career, and get this, the longest by a Chargers quarterback since Phillip Rivers in 2012. That is crazy. So Justin Herbert, I mean, it's hard to complain when you're winning. You know what I mean? It's like whatever they're doing, it's working. So maybe Justin Herbert doesn't need to throw to 400 yards because they did that and they weren't necessarily winning. So I don't feel like there's a huge pressure emphasis on getting over 200 passing yards. I think that's just something stat keepers are making a big deal of. But whatever it takes to win and go 3-0 is all that matters for the Chargers. The bold prediction, Fields is going to throw 2 or more interceptions. The Chargers surprise the Steelers by leaning on the passing game early and letting Herbert build the lead. Then once they force the Steelers into a pass-heavy situation, the Chargers defense is going to take advantage. So Fields throws 2 or more picks, but it doesn't happen until later when the Chargers lean on their passing game early, build a comfortable lead, and then make Steelers one-dimensional. And then the interceptions start coming in. Fantasy X Factor, George Pickens. Pickens and Field are starting to hit their stride. I think we'll see it really come together in week 3. Pickens scored only 4.9 fantasy points against the Broncos week 2, but he had a 51-yard catch and a touchdown taken away by penalties. Despite that, he leads Pittsburgh in targets, receiving yards, and air yards. Pickens is primed for a breakout game against the Chargers, and fantasy managers might get the performance that they have been waiting for. The Steelers have covered 4 straight September games. They're 2-0 against the spread this year, and the simulator has the Chargers winning by an average of 1 point. This is the smallest margin we've seen. The simulators have the Chargers winning by 1 point on 51.4% of the projections. Crazy close. Close enough for me to say don't touch it. Now, Buccaneers and the Broncos. This will be our last game that we'll go through. The Broncos offense has to be more optimal in order for the Broncos to win. I'll just say it like that. This game is really the Broncos kind of leaning into being an underdog. This has to be the mentality now for Denver. It's like you get to this point where you're 0-2, you're on the road, you're playing a 2-0 team. Um, like I said, not at home. You kind of lean into that if you're the Broncos. And that's why Sean Payton said, "Hey, we want 2 East Coast games back to back, and we're taking a 10-day trip. Denver's not flying back after the Bucks game. They're actually going to West Virginia, and they're staying in a nuclear bunker underground." How cool is that? Because what Sean wanted to do is he wanted to kind of have that college dorm atmosphere where the team could actually do some team building. It's a little more difficult when you drive to work and then the game's over and you drive home and you're not, but it's different when you're with your buddies, you've left your family behind. It's like a mini, deployment. Like you get closer to your squadron members or your platoon or whatever when you leave your family behind. And this is what Denver's trying to lean into. And that's why it's so important that they win this game because it'll boost their morale. They'll be celebrating, in under this nuclear dungeon and just getting to know each other. And I think Denver is really happy that they're hitting the road for this game. They're excited about the road trip, getting away from the Denver media that has just been, what's wrong with Bo Nix? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why do you guys suck? What's wrong with Sean Payton? Why are you guys terrible? Just get rid of all of the noise and hit the road and just go out there and, be a 6.5 underdog. And Denver, I think this is right what the doctor ordered. Now they're going to need to protect Nix, which is going to be even more difficult here in 25 minutes or 15 minutes because Mike McGlinchey is on injured reserve with a knee injury. So now it's going to be Alec Palzewski. He's going to make his first start. Knicks ended week 2 with 88 dropbacks, third highest in the league, and they don't want to throw and drop back this much, but that's what happens when you can't run the football, and Denver has been just as bad as the Bears at running the football. When you can't run the football and you're playing from behind, it forces you to throw 40 times a game. Like Denver wants Bo Nix to throw 20 to 25 times a game, ideally. But they just haven't been able to run the football effectively enough to let that game plan come to fruition. And they've had to just basically rip it up in the middle. I don't know if Tyler Beatty needs to come in more. He had one play this season, and he ran for I forget, it was like 15 yards or something. It was the longest rush of the season. I don't know if it's Jaleel McLaughlin. I don't know if you just keep Javonte out there and let him get hot. They keep maybe the rotation's too much. Whatever they do, they just have to be better at running the football. I don't know if they need to just scheme better, maybe more under center runs instead of these shotgun RPOs, because it's just not working. And for the Bucks, they're without several key defensive players. Kalijah Cansey has a calf, their tackle, and Vita Vea, their other tackle, has a knee. Anton Winfield has a foot. Luke Goduki has a concussion. And I look at this and I'm like, well, this is a good opportunity for Denver to sack Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's played really well, but he's also taken a ton of sacks. I think he's up at the top when it comes to sacks allowed. DJ Jones has the most pressures. He's up there with Aiden Hutchinson. So I think it's a good opportunity for Denver's defense to get, 2, 3, 4 sacks. They gave up 4.5 sacks last week with Aiden Hutchinson collecting 4.5, and Justin School on the right side of the offensive line could be in for another long week if these guys come ready to play. Stats to know: Knicks has a 35% completion percentage, 1.3 yards per attempt. That's terrible. 1.3 yards per attempt, 0 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio, and the interceptions could be much higher. He's gotten lucky with a lot of dropped interceptions, but there has been plenty more opportunities. The Bucks have blitzed the second most in the NFL this season. So They're going to be coming after Knicks. We're going to be coming after them. Bold prediction: Zion McCollum, the Bucks cornerback, will allow 0 receptions on no more than 3 targets. Through 2 weeks, McCollum ranks second among outside corners, which is 0.3 yards per coverage snap allowed. To qualify, you have to have a minimum of 50 coverage snaps. And he's been targeted just 10% of the time. That's the third least per Next Gen Stats. The X factor, Baker Mayfield. The Broncos are a middle-of-the-road defense when it comes to fantasy points allowed per game to quarterbacks. Geno had 17.8 points. Geno Smith put up 17.8 fantasy points in week 2. So, what do you mean week 2? Because I don't get it. The Broncos played Geno Smith week 1. So there's an error in the article. But the article is expecting Baker Mayfield to have at least 19 fantasy points because he's had 19 fantasy points in each of his past 2 games. And he'll be targeting Chris Godwin. Godwin should have a strong game against Jaquan McMillan. These are the 2 X factors. I agree. Of course, Surtain is going to be on Mike Evans for most of this game. But where did I put my notes? Oh, here it is. I'm going to probably add Chris Godwin. It makes sense. Chris Godwin. I would say over on receptions. Not that I'm going to be cheering for it by any means, but yes, these games are getting ready to start in 9 minutes. That was the last 1 o'clock game. So I hope you guys enjoyed the pregame show. Bill said, I know your squadron. And then he said, fun fact, your squadron's name was one of the Macro's first arms, the old robotic cartoon in the 80s. I did not know that. That is so cool. They should make command patches with that. Bills knows more about my squadron than me. But thank you guys for tuning into the pregame show. As always, you can follow me watching the Broncos game here in just a minute. Brand new thumbnail, brand new video coming out in 5 minutes. Broncos, man, hoping to get our first win of the season. Going to be monitoring some other games as well. But you guys, if you could hit this like this video on your way out, if you enjoyed it, it helps me out a bunch. Also, if you want to subscribe, that would be cool too. And I will see you guys in a little bit for the 1 o'clock games. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you in about 5 minutes.